Hello, my loves. Welcome back to the Mermaid Mystic YouTube Substack channel. So wonderful to have you here. I've got a lovely little reading for you today and a little bit of information about alchemy. So if you are all ready to listen to this reading, just get cozy. If there's anything that you want to do right now to create your own sacred space, if you want to light some candles, light some incense, if you want to leave out offerings, if you'd like to get a pen and paper to jot down notes, whatever you need to do, just pause the video, create your lovely sacred space. Otherwise, I'm diving right in. So today I'm doing a reading that's along the lines of the theme of alchemy. So alchemy is like a big thing. So in short, let me just say for now that alchemy is the art and science of transmutation, of turning lead into gold. And from the spiritual perspective, so spiritual alchemy, where we're working with energies and not metals, spiritual alchemy is taking that lead, and lead is what weighs us down. So you can think about lead as illusions that we have created about life based off of pain that don't actually represent like the truth of the universe or the truth of our true selves. So you can see that as like conditioning, unprocessed wounding, and ignored shadow side. Anything like that. Ooh, I know. You're like, oh, I'm nervous and sweaty. But then we take that, and all of these, by the way, are honored. This isn't about like, oh, they're bad or erasing them. It's just seeing that like that's actually the raw material to work with to create our gold. And everyone's got it. So we can just release all the shame or beating ourselves up. We've all got something kind of heavy to turn into gold. And so gold is associated with the sun. So you can think about gold as your realization that like you are a spiritual being having this human experience, however you want to view that. So it's just realizing that like you are spirit in motion in this beautiful physical body, and that your body is sacred and spiritual. This is where you have aligned with the truth of who you really are. So who you really came here to be in this lifetime, your gifts and your purpose, your most authentic expression of yourself. So it's kind of like we take the masks and we remove them, but they are also seen as the material that we work with to be our truest selves. And you can go through the alchemical process many times. I think this sounds really like, whoa, that's it, like 7 steps. And I'm like, whoa, I'm actualized. No, humans are like onions, just like Shrek said, but not just ogres, humans too. Where we can go through this, we can go deeper, we can spiral within more and more. Life is so gorgeous and so rich and so full. So we can do the alchemical process many times in our lives. Okay, so with that brief little caveat of alchemy, I did a reading today based on a figure from alchemy called the White Queen. So one of the goals of alchemy, the idea is that to get to the gold is wholeness. We want to create a wholeness within ourselves. And really, like, we are already whole. So this is not the idea that like we're broken or like there's something out there like missing we have to pull back in. We are whole, and we're actually unlearning and releasing the blocks that stop us from realizing this. So one of the ways that we do that is by marrying within ourselves figures called the Red King and the White Queen. So the Red King, you might have heard this in other spiritual paths. It's kind of like the divine masculine that of course is within every body, right? So it's not actually about gender, it's about the energy it's representing. So the Red King is like focused on the future and wants to grow and wants to expand. So you're in your Red King energy like when you're planning, when you are being ambitious, when you are focused on that future, that growth. Whereas the White Queen is focused more on contentment. The White Queen is very content in the present moment and very receptive. Now, there's planets associated with these as well. So you can think about this as, so in alchemy, there are 7 specific stages that are followed, 7 steps. The third one is called separation. And this is where we're like really separating out what is not for me and what is for me. And the planet associated with that is Mars. And so it reminds us of the importance, the necessity of willpower in our lives. Like we must have a will. So there's no like good or bad here. It's not like Mars good, Venus bad, or Mars bad, Venus good. It's not that like, it's so much less about judging the planets and just seeing what they're teaching us, because too much Mars, and this is really what we're seeing in the collective nowadays, we totally burn out. We can be too stuck in ego, too stuck in ambition. We can be like just moving ahead in life with no soul. And that is where the White Queen comes in. So the White Queen associated with the fourth step, conjunction. Conjunctions where we're bringing the Red King and the White Queen together. So White Queen associated with Venus. Now, I'm sure you've heard of Venus, not just the song, but this planet of love, right? But Venus it is love, absolutely, and beauty. Venus is like the arts. And if you really tap into what that means, like the arts are where we are being like our almost perhaps our most human, where we are creating, where we're letting ideas and visions and inspiration come through us, and we're bringing it out into the world, and we're appreciating the arts. So in Venus, we're able to appreciate beauty. So whether that's the beauty of nature, the beauty of an interaction, the beauty of a smell, it's very sensual. So it's very in the body. So with Venus, like we care about the things that we're smelling, and we taste and enjoy our food, and we care about creating something beautiful. It's not seen as silly or useless the way a lot of patriarchal thinking would have us believe. It's actually seen as a very necessary part of alchemy. It's necessary for our wholeness. So I was just really feeling these White Queen vibes, and I had a reading come through for the collective. So, and I think the thing is, like, most of us can be like, oh yeah, we can kind of get on board with the Red King pretty easy. Like, we're like, I'm aware. But it's our White Queen that most of us need some finessing. Like, if you've ever felt guilty for resting, or guilty for creating, or always thinking like, what's this going to get me? Or I should be doing something more productive instead. Those are all signs that your White Queen, we're out of balance. We need more White Queen. Okay. The White Queen can be too much if we lean into like hedonistic and we have no willpower and we're never getting our ideas off the ground. Once again, we're removing this idea of this hierarchy of value, and we're seeing how the Red King and the White Queen, they come together and they make a baby. They make the child of conjunction, which is a whole other thing. So we're not talking about that today. But we are going to do this lovely reading. And I just asked, like, Venus and this White Queen energy, how do you want the people in the collective, whoever comes across this reading, how do you want them to know you right now? How do you want them to feel you? And it was so good. It was like so full of Virgo energy. And I was like, yes, because I'm a Virgo. But it's Virgo season. So it's like just so beautiful, all the synchronicities. So let's do the reading. Okay. So first off, we get this card, the Eight of Pentacles, which in this deck is symbolized by the bee. I will explain. We get the Knight of Pentacles, symbolized by the disguise. And we get a major arcana card here. So remember, for my friends learning to read tarot, whenever there's major arcana, our eyeballs zoom in, because this is known as like the heart, the most important part of the reading. And it is the card Strength. Now, all three of these cards, a key element here is patience. All of these cards talk about the greatness achieved through patience. And I totally feel you. Patience is sometimes tough. I remember when I was a kid, you're a kid, so you're not patient. And unless you were. And I'd be impatient about something, and my dad would be like, patience, be patient. He's like, you know what the gift of patience is, right? The reward of patience. And I was like, what? And he was like, it's patience. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. And now as like a grown-ass woman, I'm like, oh, I get it. Patience is actually a gift. So the Divine Feminine, the White Queen, wants us to know her through patience. Now, one of the gifts of patience is when we're not rushing, when our mind is not always like hamster wheel, loop-de-loop of all the things that could happen, trying to just focus so much on the future, is in the state of the White Queen when we're receptive. Not only do we make room to receive physically things like abundance or love, we are also receptive to messages from our higher self. So those brilliant ideas, inspiration from spirit, in spirit, right? Inspiration comes in if we are in a receptive state. And if we're always in the Red King energy, it's like that great Brene Brown quote: if you don't want to be burnt out, don't live as if your life is on fire. And the Red King, too much of that, we're living like our life is on fire. So then sometimes we feel like, well, I don't know what to do. Why aren't I receiving spiritual guidance? It's because we're just in that hamster wheel, and we need that stillness to receive. So this tells me right off the hop, these three cards, the message of patience. The White Queen's like, if you want to get to know me, practice patience. Now, to get into the cards specifically, we'll start with Strength because it's major arcana. So before Strength, we see the Chariot, and the Chariot is like, giddy up, right? Just like focus, determination, goals. And as we saw with Mars, we need that. We need willpower. We need willpower to make positive changes in our life, to take the creative ideas that we receive and create them, make them happen, right? We need willpower. But strength is here where it's like willpower isn't always just active, go, go, go. Willpower is also when we are able to be patient, when we are able to persevere, when we are able to sacrifice the little wins or the little pleasures so that we can achieve the big wins and the big pleasures. For anyone who's like maybe learned an instrument or a language, you'll know what I'm talking about because it's hard at first. Like at first when all you can say is like, I'm hungry, I have red shoes. Like it doesn't, it's like, you're like, okay, it's not as fun, right? But if you keep going and you just keep going and you just keep going and you just keep going, you have all these moments of like, oh, that song used to be so hard and now I can just do it. Or like, wow, I used to be able to, you'll be listening to like the radio and before you couldn't understand anything, you'll find yourself like laughing at a joke in another language. So, and the reward is so great when we do things like this, but we rob ourselves of those experiences by being too much in the rush and the now. So the White Queen is saying, you will experience so much beauty and so many rewards if you have the bravery and the tenacity and the perseverance to let go of the immediate pleasures to build up for the really big ones. And then that brings us beautifully now to the last two cards, the Eight of Pentacles and the Knight of Pentacles. So the Eight of Pentacles is an encouragement to find and honor and make priority the kind of work that you lose yourself in. So if there's whatever that is, like we're talking about Venus with the arts, but like this is making life art. And so whatever that work is, whether that's mathematics or it's building houses or building gardens or cooking or perhaps, yes, the arts, right? Whatever it is, it's that work that you can sit down and you're doing it and times, poof, where'd it go? Like for me, that'll be like researching about things I love. Like I can sit down with books about alchemy and tarot and like herbalism and tying it all together and like 2 hours will just vanish, right? And you're so content and you're so present. So the White Queen is like, that's one of the ways you know me, is when you're doing something that's so good and so fulfilling, you are completely present. And it brings the great gifts of peace. It brings peace, it brings fulfillment. It totally helps us to avoid some of those habits of that reaching for the phone or like, I guess the way people are saying it these days, dopamine hits or whatever. This helps us to really avoid some of that so that we can be living more in balance. And really, again, if we were to look at the bee on this card, and this is another great lesson for my friends learning tarot, you're going to be drawn to different decks for different reasons, okay? So like I felt very called to use this deck today, and I think it's because the bee wanted to come forward. So always trust the decks to which you are drawn. There's going to be artwork in there. Remember that your intuition and spirit communicates through symbols. So the artwork resonating with you is actually of utmost importance. So pick the deck that makes you feel good. You can feel a resonance, like the music's in tune. The music of your soul is in tune with the deck calling to you. So honor that. Okay, and so here the bee, and think about the bee. We do know busy bees, but you ever seen a bee fall asleep on a flower? Oh, just the cutest. Another thing with bees is that people have been like in the past, like how do they fly? It seems like impossible, especially you think of like a bumblebee, this big fluffy body and these wee wings. Well, nature always finds a way, and so will you. So this will be a reminder to find the work that gives you purpose, to be patient, to honor it, to enjoy it, to know that it matters deeply. And then even if it seems impossible to dream, just remember the butterfly. Things that seem impossible can become a commonplace part of your life. And last but not least, the Knight of Pentacles. And by the way, the Eight of Pentacles, the astrology is Sun in Virgo. And according to my tarot practice, the Knight of Pentacles is Virgo. So that's why I said we got those Virgo energies, which is like the devil's in the details, paying attention to all the little things. It's not about being critical. It's about being analytical. And when we pay attention to all the little stuff, it creates the big, beautiful picture, right? Knight of Pentacles is just that reminder that like, it might not seem sexy, but it's actually super sexy to be reliable, consistent, committed, and patient. So this is the card of, it might not be Instagram worthy or whatever, but I feel like this reading is really trying to pull us away from the conditioning of social media, of all that immediacy, of doing it for the appearance. And the White Queen is really helping us tap into truth and presence and purpose and the pleasure in that. Okay, my friends, thank you so much for being here. If you are interested in this, if you're like, oh my gosh, so cool, I am teaching a tarot and alchemy 7-week workshop. I'm so excited. It's online, it's on Zoom, and everything's recorded. So if you miss a class, no worries at all. You can rewatch, or if you can't come to any of the classes, you can just watch the recordings. And then also, if you just want to rewatch, the recordings are there. This is one of the great gifts I find actually of the internet. There's many gifts of the internet. This is one. So I'm teaching this course. We're going to go through the 7 steps of alchemy, the 7 steps of the great work of spiritual alchemy. And we're also going to go through the ladder of planets that corresponds with those 7 steps. And we're going to see how these manifest in the tarot cards. And I'm going to give you simple tarot spreads and rituals that will strengthen your tarot practice, but also activate your own spiritual alchemical process. So you can go through the process of alchemy to turn some of that lead into your gold. The sign up is available in my booking site. The link is below. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a beautiful experience with the White Queen. Take care, my friends. Bye.